Fraanse fam, welcome back to my channel. I know you saw the title and you're like, girl, what is this video about? Let's get into it. I have been sitting on this story for 4 years and it's been a lot to talk about. It's been a lot to recover from. So I was like, let me talk about this when I'm ready. And also, you can't talk about stuff when it's fresh because you might say the wrong thing. So I was like, let me talk about this when I've calmed down, when I've gotten through it, when it doesn't affect me to talk about, when I'm removed from it. When I can talk about it like it's me talking about someone else's story, that's when I know I can talk about it. And also, I wanted this video to be more about the educational side of going to court and less about the relationship. Because I think it'll be beneficial for those who don't know how the process works, who don't know what's available to them, how to go about the process of going through small claims court. So let's get into that. First, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the story. I know y'all are like, girl, what happened? Why did you end up in court? What's going on? Why did you have to sue him? What went down? So stay tuned.
Some of the girls feel like automatically I have an advantage over them because I'm awesome and, you know, I totally have it going on.
So 5 years ago, I was in a committed relationship with a man, and we were cohabitating, living in sin, and it got tumultuous and things ended, and I had to leave abruptly because of how things ended, and I wasn't able to get the bulky things out of the apartment, like the furniture and things like that. So long story short, things ended. We didn't really talk. I tried to get in touch with him via email, text, call to discuss how we were going to go about the items that we went half on. And he ignored me for a great amount of time, and so I had to resort to going to court. I would have loved to have been able to settle, but by the time I had to resort to court, obviously too much time had went by. I had been ignored for way too long, and so I had to do what I had to do, y'all. So when we initially moved in together, we split a TV, a bedding set, which included a bed frame, a dresser, and also a nightstand. And then we also went half on a mattress, a queen size mattress. And so these things were still in the apartment due to me having to leave abruptly. I was not able to get them. And like I said, I reached out to him several times, reached out to people that, you know, he knew. I reached out to him via email. He opened the email, like he just would not respond. And so I understand he probably, you know, was hurt. You know, emotions are high usually when you first end things, especially me having to leave abruptly. And it just unfortunately emotions were high, and I guess he just didn't want to respond at the time. But unfortunately, business is business, and if you split something with somebody, you should pay. So that's a little bit about the story, you guys. I don't want to go too deep into it. It's been like 5 years. This was around the pandemic time. It was a crazy time. A lot was going on, y'all, but I think this video would be best suited to be more educational than it is about a story about how me and somebody didn't work out and how tumultuous it was and blah blah blah. The individual did come recently this year and apologize. Out of the blue, we've been in no contact for the last 4 or 5 years, and it was nice to hear an apology. I'm very grateful for it. Wasn't something I asked for, so that means that he really, you know, felt it in his heart to do it. And it's no love lost. There's no hate in my heart for anybody. And that's why I said I'm here to just help people. There's somebody right now today that needs this story. And it's so crazy that I'm saying this, because the moment that I decided to go about things legally, I was so scared. I was so young. I was in my early 20s, and I was literally shaking at court to turn in the papers to have him sued. And I remember this beautiful black woman was like, baby, don't worry about it. She was like, listen to me. One day somebody's going to need your story. She was like, you're doing what you have to do. She said, one day somebody's gonna need your story. So I'm hoping that this video, someone can take it and use it. Somebody, you know, could be suffering in silence. Someone may be not really knowing how to go about a situation. And so I think it's important for me to make this more educational than it is about a story about, you know, talking bad about somebody, bashing somebody. Those days are behind me. Like I said, maybe if I would have recorded this right after, maybe it would have been a you know, it would have been a silly video like that. But I've grown so much, you know, it's just, that's just so behind me at this point, you know. So at this point, I really want to contribute to the world on social media, on my channel. I want every video to be something that you can take from it, something that you can learn from. I feel like social media is often used to do too much, a lot of bullying, a lot of craziness, and that's just not what we doing on this channel, y'all. So if that's what you were looking for, I'm sorry, but this video is more so about how to and less about the who. So as you know, or if you don't know, when it comes to court, and it's so crazy because I was literally studying to go to law school when all this was going on, y'all, but this was just not something that, like, law school was just something that really wasn't in my heart. It was just something I felt that I should be doing, but it wasn't in my heart. But at the time, I was studying to go to law school, and so I was just locked in, y'all. Y'all couldn't tell me I wasn't a lawyer at the time. And so the first step is to really just do your research. I think it's important to know if you even have a case. You know, sometimes you could be mad, sometimes you could be guided by emotions. And so it's really important to see if you even have a case. You know, if somebody bought something off for themselves and you think that it's yours, you think you're entitled to it, I wouldn't recommend going to small claims. If you know that you went in onto something, or, you know, whether it's a physical object or something else, you know, I think it's important to really sit down first and decide whether or not if you have a case, you know, to see like, okay, do I have a case? Or am I just wanting something that's not mine? You know, I don't think that would work well. So, okay, you sit down, you decide that you have a case. The next step is to physically go to small claims. Small claims courts are typically in the downtown area of a city. Where I live, it was downtown next door to City Hall. I had to physically go down there, fill out a form, where I had to write down on the form exactly what I was suing for. And also I had to sign it, I had to date it, and then this form is also submitted with the payment. I think it was a little over $100 or so. And then there were some other court fees as well that you have to pay. So this is not something that's free. So I would say if you really think that you have a case, then you should move forward. If you don't, if you're finicky and you're like, I don't know if I really have a case, you know, I don't know if I'm really entitled to this, I wouldn't waste my time if you don't have the money to throw away. And at the time, I wasn't really working. It was the middle of the pandemic. It was a lot going on. But at the end of the day, I knew I had a case, if that makes sense. So what you want to do is you want to fill out that form. This will be the form that they will be served with. You're going to fill it out. You're going to write it out. And like I said, every city or state can be different. Every county or parish can be different. And so you fill out that form, you write everything down, you sign it, you date it, you pay whatever it is you have to pay, the court fees, and then you wait. They then ask you where this person will be located. If you know the person very well, you know that if they're like a clockwork kind of person, you know where they work, you know where they live. Typically, it was suggested to serve the person at work because you know that they're going to be there. At home, they may live there today and may live somewhere else tomorrow. They may run, but they're not gonna run from work. So I was suggested or advised to serve this person at work. That wasn't something I personally wanted to do because I felt like it's embarrassing. No one wants to have somebody sue them at work. Nobody wants to be served at work. But from the business standpoint, I had to take my emotions out of it. I had to do what I had to do. So unfortunately, the sheriff's office will take that paper that you filled out, filed, to have them sued, and they will serve them a copy of it. So now that person is the defendant. They have a chance to rebuttal, and they have so much time to rebuttal. I think it's about 30 days or so that they can come back and say, yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree with the claim. So he waited until the very last day or so to file and say that he didn't agree with the claim. Initially, I didn't think he was going to say anything because he waited till the very last day. And the thing about small claims is it's any sort of court situation is very, very stressful. It is a lot, and especially with someone that you were involved with romantically, it can make it 10 times worse. Think about people who are going through child custody battles with somebody they were once in love with, or divorced. That stuff can get very nasty. You know what I'm saying? And so just take it really slow. Be very, very gentle with yourself and really lean on your support system if you can at this. If the defendant does not say anything back, then you have a default case where you won pretty much. And that person has to come and pay you the judgment. You get a judgment in the mail and everything. If they rebut, you have to go to court now, which is not exciting, it's not glamorous, but you have to do what you have to do. Unfortunately, since he rebutted, we had to go to court. Now, let me back up a little bit. Courts do not update you on your case. They have so many cases that they're dealing with. It's up to you to prepare your case unless you get a lawyer. And it's also up to you to check in with the court to see what's going on. So I didn't know he rebutted until I had to call. I was calling every day. Did he call in? Did he call in? Did he call in? Did he send anything? Did he send anything in writing? He faxed over saying that he, didn't agree with the claim. But that was something that I had to follow up on, and that was not something that the court would have told me. So it's very important that you're following up, that you're calling into the courts. Sometimes the court people have an attitude, y'all. You know how the people that work for cities and city government are. But just push through, call, do what you have to do, keep it business. Understand that it's gonna end soon. So the next step after that, you get a court date. Now, the thing about court dates, I don't know if this was because it was a pandemic. Our court date was so far out. I want to say I sued him in May or June, and our court date wasn't until October. So imagine just sitting on emotions and pain and, just frustration for all of this time, and you're sitting here and it's so much anticipation, and you haven't talked to this person, you haven't seen this person in this amount of time. And I will say he did offer to settle outside of court, but unfortunately I decided not to settle because they were trying to settle for less than what I was asking for, which was the exact amount of everything. And also there was no way for me to trace a settlement outside of court. There was no paperwork involved. There was no legalities. There was nothing was set in stone, and I didn't want them to renege on anything that I worked hard to put in place. And I felt like since I already went through the legal process it was kind of too late to kind of double back and say, let's settle. I think we should have settled when I was emailing and calling, you know, to try to reason outside of court. You know, once you file that paperwork, once you pay that money, it's kind of too late. The person's probably, the plaintiff, meaning me, is probably not gonna wanna go backwards, because you're probably not gonna pay them those legal fees that they paid to have you sued. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we kind of have to go through the process. It just depends on the person, but I know for me, that's how I was thinking. So long story short, we fast forward to October. This day had been looming over my head. It was just scary. I was shaking, I was nervous. I didn't really know what to feel. A lot of times court isn't always you know, you involved with somebody romantically. It could be a business thing. There were people in there. Unfortunately, people are going to watch your case. We were the very last case of the day. I dressed up. I made sure to, you know, look presentable. I wore a suit. You don't have to wear a suit, but make sure that you're, you know, coming to court looking your best. You don't want to come to court, you know, with pajamas, you know, sweatpants, workout attire. You know, you want to be taken seriously when you go to court. And so just keep that in mind. It's up to you. I decided to wear like a skirt suit, heels. I was in my lawyer. I was in my mind. I was a lawyer that day. And so, let me back up again. Let me talk a little bit about the preparation of the case, because this is so integral, and this is what will make or break whether or not you'll win or not. Like, this is so important that, like, literally grab a paper and pen. Okay, so I had, I think, 3 or 4 months or so to prepare this case, and I was very tedious. I was very, I tried my best to think of every single question or rebuttal the judge might have for me. So whatever question I could think of that they may ask, I had proof to match whatever question I thought of. I would call my friends and say, if you were, this was your case, what were some things that you would question? What are some things that you would want to know, or you think I don't, you know, have a leg to stand on about? And everything that they would go through, I would come up with a document or form just in case that question, just in case, you know, any of that in conversation came up. I wanted to really dot my I and cross my T's. I wanted to make sure that I had this case in the bag. I had 3 packets prepared. I had one prepared for me, for the defendant, and also the judge. It does not hurt to do that. Make sure, I know you're like, I don't like this person. I don't really want to have a packet prepared for them. Prepare the packet. It's so important for them to see what you're presenting. It's important for the judge to see what you're presenting. And it also shows that you're serious and you're not playing around. It's also worthy to note that I did go through this case with no lawyer. The defendant didn't have a lawyer either. It was just him and I, and a bailiff standing between us and the judge. We did watch the cases that went before us that day, and it was a lot of, you know, cases with landlords. And, you know, one particular case was a guy who had, you know, some body shop work on his car and he didn't like it. And so it was stuff like that. And it was really interesting to see these different cases going on. But us going last really did not help me at all. It just made me even more nervous because it was just such an anticipation. And then I didn't even know if he was coming until they called roll, and I heard him say here, and I wanted to die. Literally, I hadn't seen this person in forever. I hadn't spoken to them. And it was just, it was a lot. Emotions were high, and I don't know, y'all. I don't know. So in my packet, I had emails, just in case the judge ever asked why I left abruptly, about how I felt about my safety. I had my bank statements that aligned with the receipts, with the exact amount of the half that I spent. I had to call. So one of the things that we bought was a TV, and we bought it from Walmart. I had to go to Walmart for weeks to have them go through a database, you guys, to find this receipt that I could not find. I was so adamant about adding this to my paperwork. And so they had to search through this huge database, and I had to literally figure out the exact amount of the cost of this TV for them to pull it and with date. For them to pull it, y'all, I was not playing. I wanted everything. I did not want the judge to be like, nope, you don't have the receipt, so it sounds like you're lying. So I wanted everything to match up. I highlighted my bank statements, stapled it with the receipt to match so she knew. I highlighted, just everything just fell in line. I had pictures of the items in my book. Whatever you think is gonna make sense for your case, bring it. Nothing's too crazy, nothing's too silly, because you never know what the judge is gonna ask. One thing that my dad told me before I went to court was that one thing about court, he said, be prepared for people to say anything. When you're dealing with somebody you are romantically involved in, especially, they can come to court and say anything. They can say you were on drugs. They can say that you were a loser, you weren't doing anything, that you tried to hurt them. It can literally be anything that they can say. And that was some super great advice from my dad, because literally in court, that exactly happens. And instead of me being shocked, I was prepared. My dad was just like, just be ready for him to say anything. And so, unfortunately, it gets nasty. Long story short, I did win the case, and it was a long day. It was very heavy, and I was really just thankful to get it over with. I didn't have my family and friends there. That was just a weird time for everybody, and so no one was able to come. But I will say, when you have to participate in something like that, that's so deep and so emotional, so heavy, and you have to be real strong through that, I think doing it by yourself, I just feel like there's nothing you can't do. And I really hope that this story moves somebody. I hope that someone right now is trying to figure out what they should do. Somebody owes them something of value and they don't know what to do. So if your case is about anything of value over $5,000, you will have to go to regular court for that. Small claims is so great though, because you can do what you need to do legally for less. But overall, I hope this video was helpful. And if you have any more questions about small claims, please let me know below. If I forgot anything, or you're like, wait a minute, I also want to know this, comment below. I'll see you guys there. And if you're new to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button at the top. Also too, don't forget to hit that notification bell at the bottom of this video, so every time I post a video, you'll be the first to know. Thank you guys so much for watching. This video was so hard to do, y'all, but I'm so grateful, and I hope this video was so helpful for someone. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.